Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 20 career mode here for our third season in the MotoGP class, and this episode it is round 8 of the season at Sachsenring. So first of all, we actually have the official test at Catalonia to get out of the way, but I'm not going to bother doing any laps because this is the last season of the career mode anyway, so updating the bike for next season isn't exactly a priority since there's not going to be a next season. So I'm just going to skip out this test completely and see you at week 25. So here we are then on week 25, and we actually have a notification on the personal manager, so another new candidate available, actually an A grade, but again I'm not going to bother actually hiring anybody new because this is the last season, and obviously it'll be very expensive to actually hire somebody new as well, so I'm just trying to watch out for the funds on that front as well. There's no other notifications on either the Moto2 or Moto3 junior teams, so the next thing to do now is to head into the Moto3 race here at Sachsenring. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how they get on. It's quite a short circuit, of course, so if they can actually get to the front, they might be able to stay there. So I'll see you down on the grid. Hopefully, they can bring us home a top 5. So then, Manuel Hernandez has qualified in 9th position, Johnny Stewart in 7th, so around about where they normally qualify. If they could just gain a couple of positions on the first lap, they might be able to actually hang on to them because it is obviously a fairly short circuit. There'll probably be more laps subsequently because of that. However, it's actually a fairly hard track to pass on as well, so if they can pick off a couple of positions at the first couple of corners, I'm just hoping they can hang on to the top 5. But let's get this race started. We just don't need a repeat of the last couple of episodes where they've been absolutely nowhere. So then on board with Johnny Stewart in 7th place, waiting for the lights to go out here, lights out, and away we go. He's got off to a fairly decent start, actually, to be fair. He's getting a little bit swamped now to go down towards the first corner, but he's up to 6th place. Is he going to go around the outside of all these riders into the first corner? He actually might get hung out to dry if he's not careful, up to 4th place, but yeah, he's really being hung out there, so he's 7th place at the minute. Again now, you can see Hernandez a few places further back in the background. He's between the 2 Grassini riders at the minute, Stewart, and also the 2 Leopard riders are both there. So he's still sat in 7th place. He's on the outside of Xavi Artigas now. Is he going to get round him? No, I think Foggia has actually got underneath him. So not the best positioning here for Stewart so far, but he's now got back in front of Foggia once again. Then it's just Artigas, so he's up the inside of Artigas. Is he going to get back up into 7th position on the inside of Xavi? Yes, he does. So back up into 7th place then for Johnny Stewart with Sergio Garcia just ahead of him. Let's see where Hernandez is. Hernandez is down in 15th position, so a dreadful start for Hernandez. But Artigas comes back underneath Stewart, so Stewart once again demoted to 8th place. Although Artigas actually couldn't pull that move off because Stewart's now 7th again. So Artigas must have gone up the inside, but he didn't quite have the momentum to carry it through the corner, so Stewart rode back around the outside of him. So back behind Sergio Garcia once again, and then Jeremy Alcoba ahead of him. Quick update on Manuel Hernandez, and he's now down in 16th position. He's outside of the points. This is absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea what has happened in the last couple of races, but there's always been one rider that's not even scoring points anymore. They're sort of being on right at the bottom end of the points. I think Hernandez was 15th in the last race, and now he's down in 16th place. I have no idea what's going on and why all of a sudden they've just dropped off a cliff since Stewart got that victory. Artigas at the inside of Stewart as Stewart tries to look around the outside of Garcia. It's gone badly for Stewart there. He's just managed to keep in front of Artigas, but Artigas almost actually got through because of that, so he does need to be careful when trying to make a pass. Artigas once again up the inside through the Omega corner now. I think he's going to have this one. You don't usually lose out if you're on the inside there. Yes, he gets in front, so Xavi Artigas moves back ahead into 7th place and Stewart down into 8th. So if you look at his rear tyre on the indicator, it's really overheating, so I'm hoping that it doesn't drop backwards like his teammate has. So then as they start the penultimate lap of the race, Stewart is actually closed up to the back of Artigas a little bit more once again. He's got to watch out for Gabby Rodrigo behind him though, because he doesn't want to drop down into 9th place. Not that it makes much difference, to be honest, compared to 8th place, especially since we don't get a payout unless you're in the top 5. But I'm hoping that he can try and move ahead of Xavi Artigas, and he goes up the inside to the Omega corner. It's almost like a repeat of a few laps ago, but the other way around. However, this time I think Artigas was a little bit further ahead than Stewart was, so he's been able to sort of hang it in there, and now Gabby Rodrigo is trying to get involved as well, so Stewart is the one now stuck on the outside, and I think Gabby Rodrigo might have actually got ahead of him. He should put the sweep around the outside of him here. He does, so Stewart stays in 8th place. Artigas still ahead of him, but I think he's probably blown his opportunity to actually make the pass on the Spaniard. So if we just quickly check where Hernandez is, he's down in 18th position. That is absolutely unacceptable. That is appalling. I have no idea what's happened to Manuel Hernandez as of late, but he's got even worse. But if we now swap back to Johnny Stewart, we've got Gabby Rodrigo now trying to make a move as they go down towards the tricky turn 11. They've gone through the waterfall. He's trying to now go around the outside. Stewart goes around the outside of Artigas. Unbelievable, actually. I was completely caught off guard by that. Artigas gets back ahead of him, but Stewart, what What an attempt at an overtake, and once again through the last corner, he actually pulls it off this time. So Stewart gets 7th place right at the end of the penultimate lap here. So as they come up towards the line, I'm hoping he can put a bit of a gap in front of Artigas now and try and catch us to the back of Garcia, but I don't think that's going to happen. But hopefully he could just keep in front of Gabby Rodrigo. Oh, but here comes Rodrigo. He absolutely dives underneath Johnny Stewart. What an aggressive pass, but what a good pass by Gabriel Rodrigo. He moves himself up into 7th place. Stewart is not having any of it, though. He goes back up the inside through the next corner. That's what I want to see, a bit of fight from my riders. When they lose a place, I want to see them go back at it, and he's actually got a little bit of a gap over Rodrigo now. So Rodrigo, a pretty good move, actually, to be honest, from him. But Stewart retaliates with an equally good move, to be honest. I've not seen any of my riders do anything like that at all in any of the races, like sort of snap back at someone that's passed them like that. And that might just be enough for Johnny Stewart as they come through the penultimate turn. Then it's a run down towards the final corner and the short shoot to the line. Will Rodrigo be able to do anything about it? You can see in the background, Artigas is struggling a lot now. He's holding up a big train behind him. But through the final corner then, Johnny Stewart is actually going to hang on to the 7th place. So a pretty good last lap for Johnny Stewart there. And if we swap back to Manuel Hernandez, he is going to come home in 18th place. So in the end then, John McPhee wins 0.3 of a second ahead of Jeremy Alcoba, with Yama Masia in 3rd place. Johnny Stewart ends up in 7th, which is not great, obviously, if you look at earlier on in the season, he got a win. But it's only 2 places outside of the objective zone, so it's not the end of the world. And he was only actually about half a second outside of that top 5, so not too bad of a race for Johnny Stewart. But Manuel Hernandez, on the other hand, finishes in 18th position. I'm not sure what to do here with Manuel. I don't think it's possible to fire riders midway through a season. But if it was, I think I probably would be firing Manuel after that. So in the Riders' Championship then, John McPhee actually extends his lead because, of course, he won the race once again with Alcoba in 2nd place. Johnny Stewart stays in 7th place. He's got a bit of a gap over Andrea Mino, who did a little bit better than him in that race. And obviously Garcia was 1 position ahead of him as well. So he's 6 points behind Garcia, 5 points ahead of Mino. So he's sat between the two of them. 6th place is definitely still on the cards for Stewart in this championship. Manuel now actually moves down into 11th place in the championship, although he's tied on points with Dennis Fogger in 10th place, but that was an appalling result for Hernandez. In the Teams Championship, we moved down to 5th place. Red Bull KTM IO jumped back ahead of us. Once again, we got a bit of a gap back to the Aspar team, but I want to keep rising up through the ranks, so the riders really do need to start improving because, 1, we actually need the money for getting in the top 5, and 2, we can't be having a rider finishing in 18th and the other one finishing 7th. Right, 7th isn't in the objective, but it's not the end of the world. You know, you've made an effort and you're not too far off, but starting around 9th place and finishing in 18th just isn't going to fly. It's really poor. It's worse than he was last season, which makes no sense because he should be a better rider and the bike is better. So, yeah, a really poor performance there for Manuel Hernandez. But speaking of 18th place, then we're going on to the Moto2 class, and if they brought home an 18th place, that's not the end of the world. It's a little bit more understandable, but Akagi actually has been bringing home some 13th place finishes, doing pretty well so far, so hopefully he could try and bring home another good finish here. This track is actually probably not going to be too bad for them on the speed up with the lack of straight line speed, so I'm hoping that Akagi and Jackson can do something a bit special here. So then, Daisy Jackson has qualified down in 16th place on the grid. And Akagi's on pole again! Wow, Akagi, what a track to put the bike on pole position. Sachsenring, there's probably not many that are better than that. So once again, like in Argentina, a surprise pole position for Tomatsu Akagi. And unlike Hernandez, whenever he's got pole position, Akagi actually got off to a pretty good start when he got his. So I've got some high hopes for this one. I was hoping that Akagi would be able to do something special in qualifying and maybe the race as well. But pole position, I wasn't quite expecting that. So let's get this one started. Come on, Tomatsu. So then swapping to Akagi. Pole position here for the German Grand Prix. Lights out, and away we go. He's got a good jump off the line as they go down towards the first corner. He's still in front of Marco Bezzecchi and Sam Lowes as they tip it into turn 1. Bezzecchi dives up the inside though, so Bezzecchi actually hits the front here. Akagi a little bit on the outside. He's got one of the KTM bikes up the inside. It was actually Raul Fernandez, but he keeps ahead of him. So Akagi still sat in 2nd position for now. Raul Fernandez now trying to go round the outside, up the inside into the Omega curve. Is he going to have this one done? Yes, I think he is with that line there. So Akagi once again gets hung out to dry a little bit, but still 3rd place. Still a pretty good start for Tomatsu Akagi, still in front of Joe Roberts and Sam Lowes behind him. So Roberts goes right the outside, a little bit of contact with Akagi as well there. So Roberts has a little bit of contact with Tomatsu Akagi and gets the position up into 3rd place. That might have left it compromised for Sam Lowes. Goes round the outside to Akagi now down to 5th place. He's got one of the Intact GP bikes now, gone on the inside down into the waterfall. corner, so down to 6th place, so it has unravelled very quickly there, but it's still side by side with Marcel Schrotter as they go down towards turn 11, and that looks like Augusto Fernandez up the inside and Jake Dixon around the outside, so down to 8th place now. So I think I might have been a little bit wrong when I said this track is difficult to pass on, because the AI are not finding too much trouble doing that so far. And oh, it's a big crash of Renas, goes straight into the side of Remy Gardner, and down goes Albert Arenas. Fortunately, Akagi wasn't caught up in that, but Akagi is already down to 10th place, so it's not quite been the start that he wanted. He's getting drafted on the straight. I don't know if whether he picked up a bit of damage from that crash there for Arenas, because I think he might have been tagged by Arenas a little bit. But up into 11th place once again. He lost a couple on the run into the first corner. He goes around the outside of Vietti, and I think that's Navarro on the inside, so still now in 11th place. So it's not been the ideal start to the race. The first sector was pretty good, but after that he lost a lot of positions. Jackson is down in 23rd position then, so once again struggling quite a bit. But of course she did only start 17th anyway, so losing a few positions on the first lap seems to be the normal thing for these speed-up bikes here. But speaking of that, we've got Navarro on the other speed-up going around the outside of Tomatsu Akagi. He couldn't quite get in front of him though there. Probably not the best place to try and go around the outside unless you've got serious speed and you can stick it up the inside into the waterfall corner. Akagi looking behind him. Here goes Navarro then into the tricky turn 11. Up the inside, actually might be turn 12, I'm not 100% sure on the corner number, but now it looks like Hafi Sairin is also following him through up the inside, so Akagi now down to 13th place, the position he's finished in the last couple of races, so I'm hoping he can try and hang on to that one, because he's going absolutely backwards here, poor old Tomatsu. He gets a little bit of slipstream off Hafi Sairin as they go down towards the first corner. Stefano Manzi sat in behind him, so Manzi now moves ahead of Vietti behind. So down towards the last corner then, Manzi looks up the inside of Akagi. He gets the move done, so Akagi drops down to 14th position. Not too bad of a lap for him, though. He only lost that one position right at the end of it. And if he could try, well, I was going to say if he could try getting the slipstream, but he doesn't seem to be doing that. He's sitting just to the right-hand side of Manzi, and he might be looking for an attack down to the first corner, but he couldn't get close enough for that one. And Manzi is now on the attack of Sairin, so he's got to watch out to see if he can pick up any pieces of that battle. But there's a big train behind him, led by Vietti, so he just needs to not make any mistakes on these last few laps. But it doesn't look great for him. I think he probably will drop outside the points. Jackson then still sat in 23rd position. I'm pretty sure that's where she was last time, so been no change so far, but she has got Lorenzo Dalla Porta right behind her. Here comes Akagi up the inside of Sairin into the last corner. I think he's going to get that one done. That was super, super close. Sairin, to be fair, was hanging it round the outside, but it looks like Hafish is now struggling quite a bit. So can he try and outdrag him as they go down towards the first corner? He's not really on the right side of him. Digi Antonio looking at the inside of Sairin as well, but Akagi actually has got that move done, so back up into 13th. Seems like 13th is the sweet spot for him. He ends up here quite a lot. He might not end up here by the end of the race, but he always seems to be hanging around about 13th. So that seems to be the maximum of the bike, really, at most races, about 13th position. So this lap's actually been fantastic for Akagi, because he's now caught up to the back of... Oh, there's a big crash in front! Another crash! Is that a red ass again? No way that's a red ass again. That must be Can It. So that's both of the Angel Nieto bikes now both crashing at the final corner. So the Aspar bikes are not called Angel Nieto anymore. But meanwhile, whilst that was happening, I was about to say Akagi caught up to the back of Jorge Navarro and has now made a move on him. And Akagi is now up into the top 10 because of that. So one of the Aspar bikes just gets absolutely rammed at the last corner and down he goes. I thought it was a Renas again, but I thought a Renas had crashed earlier. So perhaps it was Can It that crashed before. I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of hard to tell them apart because they both have kind of similar numbers and they use the same leather brand, so it is quite hard to tell them apart. But 10th place now for Tomatsu Akagi. Wow, I didn't expect that one starting the previous lap. So on the penultimate lap of the race down, he's got a bit of a lead over Cam Bobier. I think that is making a move up the inside of Navarro, although he hasn't quite pulled it off yet. So come on, Tomatsu, this could be his first top 10 of the season. Jackson was actually unable to capitalise on that crash and is still in 23rd position, but you can see she's not too far behind Can It, so I think it probably was Can It that crashed the second time. So both of the Aspar bikes involved in some sort of crash at the last corner with contact with another rider. Really, really weird to see. But it actually might look like Akagi's on the hunt for Jake Dixon in front. I don't think he's going to catch him because he's so far behind, but it's really encouraging to see. And Cameron Bobier equally looks like he's on the hunt for Akagi. So this last lap is going to be nail-biting. Bezecchi leads then, Schrotter second, Roberts third, Fernandez fourth, Gardner fifth, and Garzo in 6th position. But yeah, Jake Dixon is actually being caught up by Tomatsu Akagi here. So Akagi could be getting 9th place here if he plays his cards right. He looked over his shoulder to see where Cam Bobier is, so he knows that Cameron is on his way. Same with Ramirez, actually not too far behind, on his way as well. So hopefully Akagi can pass Dixon and not get held up by him. So down the hill we go then. Dixon's still hanging on in front of Akagi, but Akagi's getting super, super close now. Bobier as well, getting super close to Akagi, so this is going to be very crucial here. Akagi looks on the inside of Dixon. Can he pull this one off? Dixon on the outside, Akagi on the inside. I think Akagi has got it. Yes, it says his 9th place down, so Akagi moves ahead of Dixon. Dixon immediately dispatched by Cameron Bobier as well, so Bobier wants that 9th place. Akagi wants the 9th place as we go down the waterfall then, down towards some tricky left-hander. There's been many crashes in real life over the years here. Bobier has now got in front of Dixon, same with Ramirez, so both the American racing bikes are right there. But Akagi, I think he's got enough of a lead as they come towards the final turn then. Into the last corner they go. Akagi still in front of both the American racing bikes at the last corner. Akagi is going to come home with 9th place, the first top 10 in Moto2, with Daisy Jackson just hanging on to 23rd ahead of Xavi Vierge. So then, in the end, Marco Bezzecchi wins the race, half a second ahead of Schrotter in second, with Joe Roberts in 3rd place. Akagi comes home in 9th place, so from what looked like it was going to be an extremely tough race on the opening couple of laps, where he's getting passed by everyone, actually ended up to be a fantastic result for him, the best result he's got all season. Alright, maybe it's not a top 5, but it's pretty close, and considering the bike is still not great, that's really good to see from Akagi. I think Jackson actually finished she did finish 23rd at the end. She was actually trying to pass Vierge, it was. I thought Vierge was trying to pass her, but she was trying to pass Vierge, and they actually had a dead heat. It did change to 22nd place after I'd said 23rd for Jackson, but it does seem like she did finish in 23rd in the end. So Arenas actually got the fastest lap of the race, down in 30th place, so obviously he was one of the 2 bikes that crashed at the last corner. Canet down in 19th, so they both must have crashed at some point, but I'm not sure which order it was. I thought it was Arenas that crashed first, but then I also thought it was then Arenas second as well, and I thought that's weird, it can't be him twice. So yeah, I think Canet must have been the second one and Arenas the first one, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look back on the footage. So in the Riders' Championship then, Joe Roberts' lead is now whittled down to 5 points, so it's a close fight between Bezzecchi and Roberts. Lowe's not a million miles off, only 45 points, same with Arbolino, 51 points back. But if we have a look to see where our riders are in the championship then, Tomotsu Akagi actually moves up to 22nd in the championship now with 17 points, tied actually with Barry Boltus then for 21st in the championship. He moves ahead of Montella and Ben Schneider. And if we have a look to see where Daisy Jackson is, she's still bottom of the table, unfortunately with 0 points. But let's see what the team's championship is looking like. So Sky VR46 actually take the lead away from the Italtrans team, but we're more interested in the bottom of the table. Biker Racing then with 17 points now, but American Racing with 31, because both of their riders actually finished right behind Akagi, so they definitely got more points than him combined. But we've now got a fairly nice lead over the Idemitsu team. We've got 17 points, they've got 7, so we've got more than double their points total now. Although since the numbers are so small, that can easily change from weekend to weekend, so you can't get too confident yet, but still sat in 14th. I'm hoping we could try and pass American Racing at some point, but one of their bikes always seems to be quite close to ours, so we are actually quite well balanced with American Racing. But now it's time for the MotoGP race. This one is going to be interesting because we've actually had to come from the back here in previous seasons by accident, just through lack of pace in qualifying, so we know it can be quite tough, even with the AI that are not quite as fast as they are now, so yeah, it's going to be tough, especially on a Ducati through the long left-handers. We'll have to see what we can do, but it's going to be a hard race. So once again then, Martin being an absolute god, putting it on pole position, then Quartararo alongside him. So I was actually thinking I was going to have it tough because I was going to be on a Ducati, but to be honest, if a Ducati's on pole position, I've not got much of an excuse. I am going with a hard tyre purely just for the left-handers, because the left-hand side of the tyre gets absolutely beaten up with a soft or a medium, so I think a hard tyre probably is the way to go, but we're probably going to struggle on the right-hand side of the tyre. But since it's more left-handers than right-handers, it's just a compromise I'm going to have to take, because otherwise it is just going to get too hot through that section. So 23rd on the grid. Like I've said before, the previous 2 races, it is hard to pass, although Moto2 made it seem like I was lying, but it actually is fairly hard to do a clean pass because AI have a lot of contact and don't really care, to be honest, about the contact. So we'll need to pick off a few down towards turn 1, and then it'll just be sort of good bike placement on the opening lap to actually make up positions, I think. So we'll get this one started. Hopefully it'll be a fairly entertaining first lap, but we'll see what we get.
Everything is ready to start here at Sachsenring. Concentration is at the max because it's extremely important not to lose positions early on this track.
So then Quartararo alongside Martin, and then Bagnaia on the front row. So the Ducati does seem to work pretty well here, but waiting for the lights to go out here at Sachsenring. Lights out and away we go. Traction control 2, power mode 2, as always. Rossi actually looking a little bit further up the grid than normal. Obviously, Marini in front of us as we go down towards the first corner. Then we've got Alex Marquez. Looks like Lecuona's going around the outside, and Rossi's now down. So is Lecuona. So Lecuona, I think, has actually just taken Valentino out at that first corner by the looks of it. So poor old Valentino just getting rammed by Lecuona, and Lecuona then getting caught up by Rossi's bike. But since he caused the crash, it is kind of like karma. I need to go back down to power mode 1. That was kind of tricky to do the middle of the Omega curve. We're side by side with Bastianini. We're up to 15th already. We've got Nakagami up the inside as well, so I'm just going to stay a little bit wide to not get involved in any crash. Don't want to squeeze Nakagami onto the curb and have him crash, clatter into Bastianini, and then clatter me off. I thought it was just better to lose the position. So back down to 16th place once again. Mir down in 14th. So what's happened to Mir in the last couple of episodes? I have no idea. But up the inside of Morbidelli we go. Still running that traction control too. Got one of the KTMs, Brad Binder, going a little bit wide in front, trying to get past Paulus Bagro. But we're going to try and get past Mir down through the waterfall corner. Here we go. Full throttle. Right behind Mir. Here we go. We're going to get him on the run down towards this tricky left-hander. Up the inside of Mir. It is actually turn 12, the Saxon curve, this one, so I was calling it turn 11 for a while, and actually it's turn 12, so a little bit silly of me, but we've got past Brad Binder then, Paulus Bagro right in front of us. Nakagami's actually had a really good start, because we were going side by side with him halfway through the lap, and he's up in 11th place, so after letting him have that position, he really made the most of his first lap. So 13th at the end of the first lap, not too bad for Sachsenring actually, to be honest. But we go around the outside then of Paulus Bagro, like he was standing still there. A bit wide for Nakagami in front. We should be able to capitalise on that as well. But not quite, because Oliveira was going pretty slow on the racing line. That's allowed Paulus Bagro to actually have another pop at me. We should be able to get the... I keep trying to get the inside of people, but Oliveira is actually holding me up. So we got the inside of Nakagami again, but Nakagami again is going to hang it around the outside because Oliveira is just hogging the inside and going so slow. Oh, this is kind of annoying. I actually remember now this is why it's hard to pass, because you try and get the inside and there's one in front of you going super slow, getting in your way. So here we go then through turn 8. A little bit of contact there with Nakagami. I didn't mean to do that. I just completely misjudged that straight to the side of him. Luckily, no damage incurred by either party there, so we'll just keep going. We've got Oliveira ahead of us, and then it's Marc Marquez, and then it's one of the Ducatis. It's probably Miller, considering Bagnaia was on the front row. As we go down towards the Saxon curve then, I don't know why I opted for the outside of Oliveira, to be honest, because I know how slow he goes. We should get the cut back down towards the last corner. Yes, we do. Past Oliveira then. Now Marc Marquez is in front of us, so we're into the top 10 at the end of the second lap. We've got 15 laps, I just realised as well, so plenty of time to make up time, if that even makes sense. But a 19.2 for Quartararo, 20.3 for me. But of course, we were being held up a lot there on that lap by the AI in front of us. So trying to close to the back of Marquez, and he goes a bit wide. Rins went to basically the car park there through the first corner. Lucky for him that Marquez also went a little bit wide, so couldn't quite capitalise. And I'm just trying to find a move on the inside of one of these riders, up the inside of Marquez and through Omega. He's gone super wide, left me so much room. So we go past Marquez then, like he's standing still. And can we try and pass? I was going to try and pass Rins there, but I'm just going to stick it up to traction control 3, just because we're getting a bit of slide from the rear tyre. It is compromising my exits a little bit. So as we go through turn 7 then, oh, a little bit on the curb, probably not the best line there. It's actually upset the line through the turn, but it's not too bad. Still in 9th place, didn't lose a place to Marquez, so it doesn't matter, I guess. But we're right behind Rins, and we need to try and make a move on Rins as quick as possible. Up the inside to turn 10 is always a tricky move, because you can always hit that wall on the inside super easily. But through the waterfall then, through turn 11. We've got past Rins now, up into 8th place. Now it is Jack Miller ahead of us, then it's Aleix Bagro, then it's Bagnaia. Oh, I thought it was going to go straight into the side of Jack Miller then. So got my braking a little bit wrong for that corner, but still in front of Rins, so it doesn't particularly matter. Miller's super wide now, so I need to try and pick up the bike and get past Miller. So we come up towards the line then. 19.2 for Quartararo, 19.7 for me, so I think Fabio is going to disappear. We're not going to catch up to him, but up the inside of Miller, I'm just going to try and do it on Aleix as well. As we go to this first corner, that was tight. Good job, Aleix, get me the space there, but we've got past Aleix hopefully here. Aleix still hanging it up the inside, but we're on the outside. I think we've got the 6th place now, because we're going to have the inside for the Omega curve, and that is quicker if there's not an AI in your way. So yes, we have now got the 6th place, so Bagnaia up ahead in 5th, and this has actually been fantastic progress, so maybe we can still catch Quartararo, but it seems like he's pulled away from everybody else by quite a bit. I remember actually in the last season here, he was really, really good. He pulled away from everybody else as well by the time we got there, so yeah, I don't think we're going to catch up to Quartararo. So down towards the Saxon curve, once again we are closing on Bagnaia. I'm going to try and set him up for a move into the last corner, because he's taken an appalling line through the Saxon curve, and in fact I didn't even need to wait till the last corner. I got him on the exit of that one. That's how poor his line was. But Zarco in front of us then, so Zarco finally matching the pace of his teammate then, because I'm guessing Martins will be in 2nd place. But we've now got 1.5 seconds to Zarco, which doesn't sound like a lot, but at Sachsenring that's like 3 seconds at any other track. So it seems like my pace is pretty good because we've already caught Zarco and it's literally still the same lap. So we took 1.5 seconds out of him in pretty much a lap. So it'll be interesting to see what this time is. 18.7. So yeah, we're on the pace. We've actually got better pace than Quartararo. If we go down towards the first corner, then up the inside of Johan Zarco, up into 4th place. Zarco, I don't know what that was. He tried to go around the outside but almost put himself in the gravel doing so. So next up then we've got a little gap to Vinales. Then we've got Martin. And then we've got another probably about 1.5 seconds up to Quartararo. So this could still be on the cards, but the laps will go quickly here because of how short it is. So we are right on the back of Vinales now, but it's going to be... Okay, well, it's lost a load of time from that. I was about to say it's going to be passing him that's difficult, but I've just put the gap almost to back what it was before. So my best bet is to pass him on this second half of the lap because they aren't very good here. Well, they're pretty bad through Sector 1 as well. Sector 2, they're actually okay. Sector 3 and 4, yeah, they're pretty poor. So as we go down the hill then towards the Saxon curve, we know from experience we can pass from this far behind. If he goes super wide. He's gone pretty wide, probably not quite as wide. Actually, yeah, about as wide as Bagnaia, but a little bit quicker in. So they didn't quite lose as much time as Pecco did. Through the last corner then. Try and use this Ducati power, but I am now struggling a little bit for left-hand grip. You can see about half the tyre is gone. You'll see by the end of the race it will be all gone, which doesn't happen usually. If you use the right tyre, you should have a little bit of grip left at the end, but at this track, that is not the case. Regardless of what tyre you pick, it seems like you always lose a little bit on the left. We're looking at the inside of Vinales. We're not going to quite be able to pass him there, but if we look into Omega again, Vinales is actually defending pretty well, so we're stuck behind him for about 3 laps now, and that might have actually cost us the chance at catching Fabio, because we were making good progress until we caught up to the back of Vinales, because he's actually taken some fantastic defensive lines, but we're on the inside through turn 6. Not going to quite have the power to stick it up the inside to 7 though, and that's what happens when you start to lose that left-hand side of the tyre grip a little bit. But I'm hoping we should be able to pass him on this section of the lap this time because we are very, very close. We're looking for an outside move. Not going to quite be able to pull that one off. I wasn't trying to go around his outside, just he was so slow I had to. But we might be able to pass it through the waterfall, and then if we can do a really good Saxon curve, we should be able to catch us to Martin quite a bit in front as well. So through the waterfall, down towards the Saxon curve, we should be able to pass Maverick here up the inside. We're looking at the inside of Vinales. He goes in the wide once again. I'm on the power nice and early, side by side with Vinales as we go down towards the last corner. Up the inside of him. Got that one done then. So up into the podium spots then, up into 3rd place. Jorge Martin just ahead of us as we come up towards the line then. Another 19.2. So my pace not too bad, but we can't be doing the same lap times as the AI. We need to be a little bit quicker, which I suppose I will be once I'm in clean air. But with that gap that Quartararo's got, it's going to be hard to reel that one back in because we're already on lap 9. It's gone so fast. So then we're right on the back of Martin now as we go through the last corner, trying to get the bike sat up as quickly as possible in the slipstream of Martin as we come up towards the line. Then a 19.3 on this lap. We should be able to pass him down towards the first corner on the brakes, and Martin got that all crossed up as we went in there. That was super, super close with Jorge Martin, but we've now hit 2nd position then. We've got a big gap ahead of us to Fabio Quartararo. That's about 2.5 seconds, I would have thought. 2.2, so a little bit of an overestimation, but that is going to be difficult to make up at Sachsenring. You're only going to be a couple of tenths, if that, quicker than the rider in front a lap, since it's so short, and we've only got about 5 laps to do it in. So a new fastest lap of the race on that lap then, a 1 minute 18.6, 1.6 seconds now behind Quartararo. 18.4 on that lap, so another couple of tenths faster. We're now only 6 tenths behind Fabio. We are within range. We've got a few laps to go, and we've almost made that entire gap up on the run into the first corner. So this battle for the lead is definitely on. It's definitely still a chance of us winning this race. We've got a massive lead back to the riders behind because I've obviously caught all the way up to Quartararo, and they haven't come with me. In fact, they've probably lost more time. 3.2, yes, so they've lost about another second to Quartararo in this period. So we are just fighting Fabio to the end here. We've got 2 and a bit laps to go. It's going to be tricky to make a pass on him, though. So then starting the penultimate lap of the race, we didn't really have a very good lap that time. We didn't make up too much time, but we are really closing on Fabio now. Can we try and make the move on the exit of the first corner? Almost edging alongside him. We might be able to have a pass down towards the Omega curve, but he's going to have the inside line surely. He's going to try and defend it as much as he can. We're trying to just force the bike up the inside. He goes a little bit wide, but it's not going to quite be enough. He cuts back for a late apex, so still Quartararo then still hanging on to the lead for now. And this is the section where it's almost impossible for me to make a pass because I've got no grip on the left. And to be fair to the AI, this is the section where they are pretty fast actually through the lap. They obviously take a slightly more swooping line than I do. I'm just trying to minimise the time loss to him. We're only 3 tenths behind, but we are quickly running out of time as we go into turn 8, then try to chuck it in as much speed as possible, a little bit wide, probably not the best line through there, but we did still make a bit of time on Fabio. The rear kicking out so much now. Every time I get on the power, there's no grip left from that rear tyre, especially on that left hand side. You can see why I went for the hard tyre now. 0.3 of a second behind Fabio Quartararo. Then can we try and do it down towards the Saxon curve? We might be able to do the famous AI move on them. I wasn't quite as tight though as I could be, and I didn't get on the power as early as I could have done. So we go into the last corner then. I've got in super wide actually, so I've actually compromised my run out of there pretty badly. So as we come up towards the line then, Fabio Quartararo still hangs on to the lead, 0.3 of a second behind him, and we start the final lap of the race. We've got to make the move on this lap. There's no more laps after this one, and we are right behind him as we go through the first corner now, almost losing the front on the power as early as I can. And we can also try and flick it up the inside through this left-hander. We try to have a look up the inside. He's going to have the inside for Omega once again though, surely. We're just going to follow his line this time instead of trying to turn it tighter, because that cost us time on the previous lap. But I think Quartararo might have this one, unless it comes down to a last corner dive, because I just can't see myself passing him through the rest of this lap. So down the hill towards the Saxon curve, I think he's got enough of a gap. He's got 0.4 of a second. We couldn't pass it 0.3 on the last lap. But here we go then through the Saxon curve, trying to do it perfectly. We're right behind Fabio Quartararo down towards the last corner now. We're going to go up the inside of Fabio. Are we going to get this one done up the inside? I'll lose the rear end a little bit. He might outdrive me to the line on the curb. All towards the line. Fabio is going to do it. Fabio beats us over the line. And it's second place here at Sachsenring. So close right to the end there, but Fabio Quartararo once again wins at the Sachsenring, so another great result for Fabio then. I tried everything I could on that last lap. That was one of my better laps, I would have said. The very final lap through the Sector 3, and I just couldn't quite get it stopped into that last corner. It's really difficult to actually make a pass into there, but I didn't think I'd be able to drag him to the line if I just set him up to get a better exit. You usually need all the straight and then turn one, so I knew I had to dive up the inside. When I took him wide with me, because he sort of followed my line, I thought I'd done it, but then I just went onto the curb, and once I did that, once I got on the power, I span up, so he just dragged me to the line. So fair play to Fabio Quartararo. Such a close finish there, with Martin then about 4 seconds behind in third place. Vinales probably the most important rider then in fourth, because he's currently my closest championship rival, with Marquez down in seventh, although Martin is probably creeping up on Marquez now, and that win for Quartararo must boost him up a bit. So in fact it does. Quartararo and Vinales are now tied on points for second in the championship, both 57 points behind me. Jack Miller moves down to fourth place then, he's 66 points back. Marquez still sat in fifth place, only 1 point ahead of Jorge Martin now, with Joan Mir now moving down to seventh place after a pretty good start to the season, but he's really dropped off as of late. So in the teams championship then, Monster Energy Yamaha continue to lead with that first and fourth place finish, much better than any of the other teams could put together. Of course, I was second, so I made some inroads there on the Ducati Lenovo team, but not many. Repsol Honda move up to fourth then, ahead of Suzuki now. So Suzuki are really tumbling down the order now. Mir is struggling a little bit. In the Constructors' Championship, that's 2 races now that Ducati have not won, but Yamaha have won both of those. So a 53-point lead then for Ducati in the Constructors' Championship. It is going to be close down to the wire, I think, between Yamaha and Ducati, because both the Monster Boys have been extremely fast this season, and of course, most of the Ducatis have been up the front, so it is Ducati versus Yamaha for this Constructors' Championship, 100%. So then, we'll head to the Career Hub now and see what awaits us there. Hopefully, it should be a fairly decent amount of money, because of course we still got second place, and Akagi, although he didn't get the objective, so he's not going to bring us home any money, should kind of minimise our prestige loss in Moto 2 with that pretty good 9th place finish. So then on the reputation front, we gained 7,700 reputation, which takes up to 911,100 reputation. And on the credits front then, we gained 56,250 credits, which takes us up to 132,129. So a mixed weekend then for the Moto 2 team, because we actually gained a decent amount of development data there. You can see we got 450, and obviously with Akagi getting pole position, he gained 60 prestige for that, and then 9th place he only lost a little bit of prestige, so we only lost 393, which is still a lot, but not bad for a Moto 2 weekend, but you can see how low that bar now is. So Moto3 actually slightly worse because we lost more prestige in that class than we did in Moto2, and obviously slightly less research data, but it doesn't matter too much because there's nothing else to develop on the Moto3 bike anyway. But a pretty poor weekend all around for Moto3. Obviously Stewart wasn't horrendous, I suppose, but it would have been better if he could have got in the top 5, but Hernandez was absolutely abysmal. But that about sums everything up then for this episode. I've not got a massive amount to say because of course we just covered both of the Moto2 and Moto3 weekends there. Not a bad weekend I suppose for Akagi, getting that 9th place. Really nice to see that we finally got a top 10 as a Moto2 team. Not terrible I suppose for Stewart. Could have been a little bit better, but 7th place is not the end of the world. But Hernandez and Jackson really struggling a lot in their respective races. I think I need to kind of stop giving Jackson the benefit of the doubt now because we are about halfway through the season, so she should be doing a little bit better at this point, although the bike isn't very good, so we'll give her that. But Akagi is still doing some magical things on it, so hopefully she could try and match him a little bit more. But as for the MotoGP race, really disappointed that we didn't quite beat Fabio Quartararo in that last corner shootout, but you win some, you lose some. And speaking of ones that I think we're going to win, Assen is up next. That should be a fairly easy last to first challenge. We've done that before in the past with a shorter race distance, so it should be fairly easy, especially on a bike that feels fantastic on track all the time. But I hope you guys did enjoy that video. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.